I know literally nothing about game development, but one thing that confuses me is some of the decisions devs do that make me scratch my heads, and this is in regards to the game Vietcong 2. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad game, but compared to the first one, it's as if they regressed in certain aspects. Also, please don't ask me where I got the game from. All I know is the installation box had question marks in it, replacing the text. My antivirus was losing its shit, so do leave a comment telling me what your favorite Vietnam War era weapon is. But if you don't know what Vietcong 2, it's a tactical, with air quotes, first-person shooter made in 2005 by the same people that worked on the first game, but you play as Daniel Boone, who is a captain for this MACB group that is made up of a coalition of Aussies, Kiwis, and Canadians, but rather than fighting in a thick, dense jungle, you fight on the streets of Hue City during the Tet Offensive. But a cool thing is that you can actually see the protagonist from the first game in the very first level. That's a cool little Easter egg.
Where'd you get hit?
Some hickville called Nui Peck. You probably never heard about it.
But another cool thing is that you also get a Vietnamese campaign, which is good to get some different perspective on this topic. But I want to start off with what I think is the worst thing about Vietcong 2, and all the terrible reviews that this game got don't actually cover this, and it's the lack of a drill sergeant saying he's going to rear-end you.
I will fuck you up the ass! You will enjoy it!
I imagine the sexual assault charge has finally caught up with him, but the game does make up for it in other aspects. Okay, in all seriousness, the reason why I think this game is a downgrade is that I'm not a fan of the urban environment. There were some memorable moments, but most of the time I just found myself really frustrated, and one of these frustrating things was the VC hiding behind ledges, but I felt like I was just waiting for them to peek their heads more often than I wanted to. But you either have to wait for them to peek their heads or try and feather a shot in between the lines, but sometimes it's a solid and you can't do that. But the game is also much more linear. You don't have that sense of freedom to explore a jungle and flank around enemies. I know that it's a city environment, but you can't go into a lot of houses or go through back alleys to flank enemies. Like, you're very restricted on the path that you take. You don't even get given a map anymore. The next downgrade is the overall flow of gameplay. In the original, I said the friendly AI moved too slowly, and while that was frustrating, that was my own problem. But in this game, your movement is faster and so is your friendlies, and you don't feel like you have these moments of suspense of walking slowly into unknown danger or into an ambush. But staying on topic of friendly AI, they are dumbed down because you don't have a menu to control their behavior. Instead, you have a move marker, but it's pointless since most of the time they're already standing right next to you. But in this game, there always feels like there's something going on, and rather than doing something what I imagine a real MACB soldier would do, such as search and rescue and patrolling in a realistic sense, you pretty much become an action hero because you have tanks, Hueys, it's all explosions everywhere, and I feel like this throws out the realistic tactical element of the first game. But in regards to the difficulty, I did play it on the easiest difficulty, and it was still very challenging. You're not supposed to run around like a fucking Doom style character. You still have to take things slowly as well as peek around corners. I don't want to even attempt the game on Vietnam difficulty, but the very first mission of the game, in my opinion, wasn't that good of an introduction because you literally have to fight off hordes of VC that just run at you without a thought. And when we compare this to the very first mission of Vietcong 1, it's like you're in a village and then you're getting shot at by a sniper. You have to run in between cover, and it's just one sniper that's causing all this havoc, and you have to try and get close enough to take them out. You do have a moment like this in the second game, but for the very first level, you can see the juxtaposition between having a more grounded experience compared to a very Hollywood style-esque game. But staying on topic of bots, it's just worse in the second one in my opinion. Bots in the original weren't perfect, but they used cover smartly. They could set up ambushes. They wouldn't just rush at you without a thought. You'd also have to deal with traps as well. But another thing is that I just don't like the fact that they removed the barracks, and it's such a minor thing, I know, but I didn't realize how much I missed it until it was gone, because it was nice listening to music, reading the storyline, what my current mission is, looking just around my little bunker and just observing things, learning things about the game, as well as looking into the lore of my teammates. And then I can go out to the armory, select the weapons that I'd like to use, and then I'd make my way to the pre-mission briefing, and that's also gone. But instead of a pre-mission briefing, you'll get news reports sometimes, and I actually didn't mind this because I'd say a big thing about the Vietnam War was that it was being broadcasted to everyone around the world, and they were seeing the atrocities. I don't want to get into that topic, but I kind of did like that. But speaking of the pre-mission briefing, sure, all the characters in Vietcong 1 looked like ghouls, and the voice acting in the first game was just, it was fucking bad. But it was bad in a humorous way. Now, if any of you here have played the original Resident Evil from the 90s, you'll know that the voice acting, it's just infamous for just how bad it is, but it adds a layer of humor to such a dire situation.
You saved me!
Yeah.
That was close. Thanks, Barry.
Don't mention it. What a monster. I can't believe... What the hell is this place anyway?
But I mean, I'd say the same for the first game. Like, it was just so bad that it just added this sense of humor. And also another thing is there's no inter-squad banter. Like, in the original, you had people fucking throwing insults left and right at each other. There was like some personality to them. But in this game, it's just bland. Sure, you got the Australian guy who'd say something funny every now and then, but the rest of the squad, it's just not memorable, you know? Because in the original, you had Hornstar, who was just a ball breaker. You had Nut, or Newt, whatever his name is, and he was just a more composed, you know, an ARVN soldier who could lead the way. And then you had the radio man who was more wimpy. Speaking of which, in Vietcong 2, you don't actually use the radio. I didn't really like that. I understand that the radio man can phone into the commander or whatever, but I don't know, I liked sort of going up to the radio man, talking to the superiors, and getting my next objective. But another downgrade is the ambience of the map. We know that VC1, the jungle feels real and alive. You can hear rain, water, animals, vehicles in the distance. But in this game, I mean, yes, there are explosions and jets flying in every now and then. The city just doesn't have that lively feel to it that the jungle did. But I will say that the church level was pretty cool. I'd say probably my favorite. You don't know what to expect when you open the church doors and you walk right into a VC ambush. And the music that plays is top notch. The organs are blasting. You're getting mowed down by machine gun fire in every direction. The pews are going flying and you don't even know if the hostages are alive or not. And I'm gonna be absolutely honest, this was such a cool moment in the game. And I mentioned previously how they removed the map. Sure, I was hopeless with it, but I really liked it because I felt like a real MACV soldier. I'm pinned down, I'm lost. I need to get my bearings and actually use the objects in my surroundings to just get an understanding of where I am on the map and which direction I need to proceed. The minimap is improved in VC2, but you know, I don't want a minimap in a tactical shooter. I want to have the ability to apply tactics and plan an attack. But there are, you know, some things that I do like about the game, and for starters, the use of, I'd say, rare weapons that were used in the Vietnam War. And I mean this from a pop culture perspective because you have the VZ58, Mauser, I'm sorry if I butchered that, C96, STG44, the Standard Sterling gun, Carl Gustav M45, VZ59, but you also get a fucking blunderbuss, and it was surprisingly useful. The animations are more refined, you have weapon sway when walking, and the weapon models do look good in the game, especially the VZ58, it looks nice and sexy. But nonetheless, don't think of me hating on your nostalgia or hating on the game, because I did like the game, I had fun playing it. But the thing that just ruins it for me is the fact that you got Vietcong 1, and it's like they just got everything that worked in that game and just removed it, changed it, and they didn't make any meaningful advancements on the core game that made it better in my opinion. But if you do want to see that Vietcong video, do click on the video that is on screen. Anyways, my name is Tan2, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, because if you did, please do consider leaving a like, subscribing, sharing the video with your friends,